On February 4th, I woke up worried. I called my friend, a Jewish friend, to see if she had heard the news. The Chicago Loop Synagogue that night had been broken into, vandalized, and swastikas had gone up. I don't know about you, but that was eerily reminiscent of a history I hadn't lived myself, but I had heard ample from my grandmothers. And I thought, this anti-Semitism is something we need to talk about. Jews are really good at getting together and discussing an issue and trying to find problems, but we're not so good at opening up the dialogue to others. It's great that we can get together and do this, but how can we engage the non-Jewish community, especially when it comes to anti-Semitism? So today I'd like to suggest that university Jewish organizations put more time and more funding into programs that build a bridge from the Jewish community to others to open up dialogue, will then in turn mitigate negative perceptions of Jews from the outside. In no way am I suggesting that we be apologetic for any sort of anti-Semitism as racism, anti-Semitism. These things are not forgivable, but we need to do things through collaboration that will help us from within. And so, at Loyola's Hillel, we have started an initiative called Abraham's Tent. And what Abraham's Tent tries to do is foster a platform that creates inter-community dialogue that in turn paints a really positive view and an open view of Jewish students at Loyola's campus. So I want to kind of tell the story of how Abraham's Tent came to be. I returned from a semester in Argentina as the sole member of the volunteering committee on my school's Hillel. And I thought this was a really unique opportunity to engage the Jewish students in service and in volunteering, but with other non-Jewish students that hold the same values with a different lens. And so me and other Jewish students thought of this idea of Abraham's Tent. One of my favorite stories in Hebrew school was learning about Abraham and Sarah and how their tent was interestingly never locked. I don't know if you can really lock a tent, but regardless, their door was always open. So any sort of passerby through the desert could stop in, have a meal, sleep for the night, and go on his or her way. And Abraham and Sarah wouldn't ask any questions. And so I think this is important, replicating this idea today, in that we can open up the dialogue and welcome people into our community that might not necessarily believe exactly what we do, but they'll understand. So what does Abraham's Tent look like at Loyola? It's certainly not a biblical tent, but it is a big tent we put up in our student center or outside, and we have food and we have music, and we get together in acts of service, whether we're painting hamsas for nursing homes, or potting flowers for nursing home residents, or making blankets for undocumented families in transit. And I'd like to tell one particular story. A student approached me while we were making blankets at an Abraham's Tent, and he asked who we were and what we were doing, and I said we were part of our school's Hillel, which is a Jewish organization, and we're making blankets for undocumented students. And he said, I'm an undocumented student, and I really only thought Hillel served Jewish students and Jewish problems and Jewish help. Now he feels as if the Jewish students on campus stand in solidarity with him and with the struggles he faces as not being secure in his own home. This example is important. Our people through history have had many problems, and we've turned to others, and I think it's our turn now to stand in solidarity with other groups. And I think in turn, this will really paint the Jewish people in a more positive light. And so I really encourage leaders of Jewish organizations in Chicago, on campuses across the country, to put more time and put more funding into this open dialogue, because I think then we will actually see anti-Semitism mitigated. Thank you so much.